What's up guys, Mizzo Frizzo from Pitchfork Academy here, and welcome back for part 11 of my How to Make a Multiplayer FPS in Unreal Engine 5 tutorial series. In this part, we're going to look at giving our first person character a pair of legs. So as you are probably aware, this mesh that we see of other characters in our game is a totally separate mesh to the one that holds our weapon up in front of the camera, as is this mesh, which with some trickery gives our player the sense that they do indeed have legs and a full body, and this will also cast a full shadow including the weapon. And on top of that, we're also going to sort out a couple of bugs and tidy up a few things. So without further ado, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty guys, now just before we get started, I'm just going to change my scalability settings so that I don't run out of video memory so easily. So I'm going to go to settings up here in engine scalability, and I'm just going to put this back to high. If you are on a lower end machine and you want to set this lower, be my guest. It's not really needed to be on Epic for development, so I'm just going to set mine to high, and I'm also going to set the viewport here to unlit, like so. When we do the play in editor, it will be lit anyway, so we'll just set this one to unlit. And the first thing I want to look at with you guys, if I hit play here and I pick up an assault rifle, and then I go away from these pickups and I hold F, you'll notice that the weapon, I'm holding F here repeatedly, you notice that the weapon is kind of flickering there, and that's because it's spawning another weapon. I can even pick up a pistol, and then if I hold F, it will spawn another assault rifle. And that's because we don't have any checks on our weapon spawn logic, so this is an oversight on my part. I'm going to open up the BP first person character, and right here where we're spawning our weapon, where we're doing the interact here, what we can do is we can drag off of this get and get a node called is overlapping actor. And actually this will plug into the other. And the target will be self. So we're checking if the self overlaps with one of these actors. And I've tested this. This will actually stop this code from executing if you are not overlapping with a pickup. So unless you are overlapping with whatever is in this class filter here, this will ring false. Nice. The other thing I wanted to do before we jump in to setting up our first person legs is inside of your MetaHuman blueprint, in a previous part of this series, I suggested that you set this body mesh to the preview one for the purposes of the line trace and helping it hit properly. But this actually causes issues with deformation of the torso mesh when you're looking up and down and the arms are rotating. So this is not a good idea. And the line trace detection is actually fixed when we went in and we set all of these skeletal meshes to, if I look for collision, when we set these to query only, overlap all, this is what we needed for correct line trace to overlap with this mesh. We don't actually need this to be the preview mesh. So I'm going to change this from the preview one back to the regular one, like so. This, like I said, this one causes some issues with deformation of the torso, so you do want to use the regular one. Okay, let's get to work setting up our first person legs. Now, I'm just going to do this for one of my classes because there is quite a lot that goes into it. We do want to basically make a copy of all of these skeletal mesh components here so that these will be duplicated, but they need to be a child of a sort of second TP body, a second component within our first person character. So I'm going to go to my first person character and I'm going to duplicate TP body. because these will be a child of that. So duplicate TP body, and then this second TP body, we want to make sure we search for vis and uncheck visible. And this needs to be set to always tick pose and refresh bones, which it should be. So this is what we're going to parent all of our first person body, our first person legs and the body to, is that TP body one. So I'm going to go back to my MetaHuman blueprint, and I'm going to select the body, the torso, the face, the hair. Actually, I will do the beard as well, just because it will change the sort of profile of his shadow. But I'm not going to choose the eyebrows or eyelashes or anything like that. So I will select the beard as well, and the legs and the feet. I will Control C these, and then I will click on TP body 1, which we just duplicated, and I'll paste these in. These may not be parented to TP body 1 when you do that. So if they aren't, just grab them and drag them onto TP body 1 and make sure they're parented to TP body 1. Nice. And let's sort. We've got a lot to sort out here. So we need to sort out the location. And this stuff will be sorted out sort of in a moment. Actually, these are not parented to the body yet. So these are all just parented to TP body. So we do need to grab everything except for the body and drag it onto the body and make sure that these are all parented to the body, face to the body, and the hair and the beard both need to be parented to the face, like so. Nice. This will look a bit whack, but it'll all be sorted out in a moment. You may need to zero out the location on all of these components. What I'll do before I try and fiddle with any more of these arguments is I want to enable the master pose on these components. So you'll see this function here called enable master pose, and in the construction script this is called, and the sort of feet and legs and torso are all parented essentially to the root component of that metahuman's body, and this sort of enables them to all share an animation blueprint. So what I'm actually going to do is duplicate this enable master pose function. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm just going to leave it called master pose 0. And in master pose 0, what you want to do is replace this body with the body 1 that you've got on this duplicate body. And then in the construction script, what we're going to do is hold S and click to get a sequence, and we'll put this on a sequence. And then we basically need to do this, but with these other components and with that duplicated function, like so. So we'll grab enable master pose 0, and actually just before we do this, we do need to duplicate the body one more time, and let's just call it body 2. We'll drag it onto body. Sorry, TP body 1, that's the wrong body there. We need body 2 on body 1. So the reason for this is, if you recall, in part 2 of this series, we created sort of 2 separate altered meshes, body meshes of our metahuman. So if we've got this one here, which is just the arms, and this is actually the one that we need to set as body 1 here, because this is sort of one of the ones that we want to hide from our first person view. It's only going to be there to cast a shadow, but we do need ankles. So that's the reason why we created 2 of these. We can actually browse to this one. I called mine untitled, and then you can see I've also got this FPS body here, which is the ankles and the belly. So this one with the arms needs to be set as body 1. So we can select body 1 and then click this little arrow and set that as body 1. And then this one here with just the ankles, that is going to be our body 2. So we can select body 2, click this little arrow and set that as body 2. Nice. Now that that's done, let's finish doing this enable master pose. So in the construction script, we will get body 2, plug it in here. And while we're here, let's just get torso, feet, and legs and drag these out. And we'll duplicate this 3 more times. And plug feet into this one, legs into this one, and torso into this one, and hit compile. And let's have a look in the viewport and see if this changes anything with our sort of whack orientation here. It's all still pretty messed up. It's hard to tell what's going on here. Let's grab the TP body 1 that we made in the first person character, and let's just move it back about 50 units. It's not even telling me how many units that's moved back. That's so weird. I'm just moving it back so it's sort of a little bit separate here. And we just need to figure out what's going on here. So body 1 probably needs to be set to -90. There we go. He's facing forward now, I believe. No, 0. The arms are pointing the right way. And then torso and everything else might need to be set to -90. Oh, sorry, that's the location. 0. 0, 0. Let's try 0. Yeah, so just reset the rotation on all of these. Hey, that looks like it's worked. Nice. You might have to play around a little bit with the rotation. See this? No, that's rotated the same. These two. Yeah, so you might need to play around. I did find some issues with sort of making changes in here, and it threw everything out of whack in here. But this seems to be working. Nice. The other thing I want to do is I just want to remove the lowest LODs of the hair and the beard. So I'm going to make a duplicate of them. I'm going to select the hair, and down here in the groom asset, I'm going to browse, and then I'm going to duplicate that one. And I'm going to open that duplicate, and I'm just going to straight up scrap LOD 0. And I'm going to scrap LOD 0 again until LOD 0 is the first one that is a card. You can see this is cards right here. So let's save that and close that. And with that one still selected, I'm going to set it here as the hair asset. I'm going to do the same with the beard. Browse to the beard, groom, duplicate it, open it up. And here you'll see LOD 0 is strands, and this LOD 1 is strands, and then you've got cards. So if we scrap LOD 0 and then scrap the new LOD 0, this will say cards again. Oh, and actually it doesn't exist for the beard. There are no cards for the beard. Yeah, it just doesn't have those lower LODs. So I'm actually just going to delete that duplicate. And I'm just going to have to run with that regular old beard. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is start having a look at the shadow that this sort of casts. So if we select all of these assets here and search for owner, they are already set to owner no C. That's sort of no good. We want him to see the bottom half, but maybe not the top half. So I'm going to select all of these and set them to only owner see. So this makes sure that no other players see these. And then I'm going to select everything from the torso up. So the torso, the body one, and the face, and these grooms. And I'm also going to set those to owner no see. So owner only see and owner no see. This actually isn't, strictly speaking, accurate. Only owner see actually means no other players see. So with both of these set on all of these, essentially no one will see them. But if we also search for hidden and check hidden shadow, it means that even though they are hidden, they will still cast a shadow. So we can start testing this and seeing how it looks. There is more work to be done with the shadows, but I'll show you exactly what we will be needing to do. So if I run over in front of another player, you'll see that there is a shadow, an extra shadow that he can see. So I can see my own legs and they're disappearing there. So that is another issue that we need to have a look at. But you'll also see that the other player can see an extra shadow there. And what we basically need to do here is check if this character is locally controlled and set the shadow based on that. And while I'm here, I'm also going to grab a weapon and point out that this weapon is casting a shadow here, and we're not actually going to want that to be the case because we're going to essentially create a phantom weapon that will be part of this first person mesh that will cast its own shadow to make it all look well and proper. So what we need to do is go to our first person character and the event graph. No, sorry, our metahumans blueprint. And I'm going to go to the event graph and find event begin play here. And just in case we ever set anything up on event begin play in our first person, I'm going to right click on this and add a call to parent function and put this in here just in case we put anything inside of our first person character. It will also be executed and not overridden in this child class. So basically what we're going to do is find is locally controlled, put this on a branch, and then I'm going to get everything that I want to sort of hide those shadows from the torso up. I'm going to get the torso, the face, the beard, the hair, and body one. I'm going to drag it out here, and I'm going to set cast shadow. I don't actually want this to have a component. I've already got my components, so I'll just pick one of those and delete it. And then I will plug all of these into the target here and leave that as false. So if it's another player, we don't want these to cast a shadow. I can grab all of these and duplicate them, plug it into the true. And if this is our own character, we do want this to cast a shadow. So I can compile and save and test this out now. And I'll just grab this guy over here, and you'll see that he no longer has that extra set of shadows on him there. Nice. Let's do the shadow of the weapon next. So I just basically want this to only cast a shadow if it is not locally controlled. So I'm going to go to my _main, props, weapons, and open up BP weapon comp master. And to set this up, I am going to grab my event begin play here and hold S and click and get a sequence. I'm going to add a pin to this sequence. And the first thing I'm going to do on this sequence is just set my reference to the BP first person character, like so. I will plug everything else down here into the last pin on the sequence. And I will also get my first person character reference and plug it into this reroute node so that all of that stuff is running off of that reference there. And I can also get my first person character and is locally controlled. Put this on a branch. I can hold B and click to get a branch. Plug this in here and set cast shadow. The target is the self. Whoops. And if this is locally controlled, we don't want it to cast a shadow. If it isn't locally controlled, we do want it to cast a shadow. Nice. So if I compile and save and hit play now, and I grab a weapon, I will not be casting a shadow anymore, but the other player can still see the shadow of my weapon, but I can't. And it looks a bit odd now. It looks like on his shadow he's not holding a weapon, but like I said, we are going to attach a kind of phantom weapon to make it look like our guy is carrying a weapon. Let's sort out this issue that we saw earlier where the mesh is sort of disappearing out from under us, and also we might want to have a look at see how he can see down into his waistband on his legs there. So that basically is just field of view that we want to play with there. You can also play with sort of how far back this mesh is. What have we got here? Probably won't tell us here. It'll tell us in the first person. Minus 40. Okay. I'd be inclined to maybe set this to even a little bit more, like negative 45. And let's change the radius of the capsule component to 75, something like that. It's a little bit big, maybe 70. It's a little bit big, but we are going to be holding a weapon out in front of us. Yeah, I mean, it will still allow you to get pretty close to another player. You can play around with this sort of stuff yourself and dial it in yourself to whatever you like. But basically I've moved that back so that it's harder to look down into his trousers. And I will also select the camera in the first person character and change the field of view to 80. Another thing you could do is limit the maximum pitch of the camera. So you could do that on event begin play. I can't remember exactly what the node is, but if I go into my first person character and I find event begin play, I think it's in the camera and I think it's set view. No, set pitch. You know what? It might be in the controller. So I will try get player controller. That's not it. I'm sure it was set view pitch. Set view pitch max and min. That is it. Player camera manager. Get player camera manager. And you want to set the min and the max. Set view pitch min. And I'm not actually sure if this is in degrees. It's been a long time since I've played with this, but let's try negative 80 to 80. I will see if this works. Minus 80 to 80. This, nope. Get player camera manager. Maybe that's, nope. Player controller. Okay. Get player controller. I believe you just needed this get player controller that has the player index 0. It's because I had context sensitivity switched off. Pure virtual function being called while application was running. Crash my editor. Sorry about that, guys. That should be working now. Yeah, I just had context sensitivity switched off, pulled out another node, and it broke my engine. So I'm hoping that my view pitch is set to +80 and -80 now, and that does seem to be working. So I think it's pretty common that you're not able to look like perfectly 90 degrees up and down in an FPS. So I would recommend that as a sort of extra measure to stop him looking down into his own trousers. But you can see there that that leg is clipping in and out, and it has to do with the bounds of the mesh. We'll fix that right now. So all you have to do for that is select all of these except the grooms. So select all these skeletal meshes and search for bounds. And under skeletal mesh here, include component location into bounds and use bounds from leader pose component. If you check both of these, that will stop that mesh from culling. So I'm just going to double check that that has worked. And my engine scalability settings are back to epic because my engine restarted. But that is working. Very nice. The next thing that we want to do is have a look at spawning a sort of skeletal mesh on that first person mesh to cast a shadow with. So how we're going to do that in our first person character, we are going to need a new skeletal mesh component. So I'm going to add a skeletal mesh and I'm going to call it Phantom Weapon. Like so. I'm going to drag this onto TP body 1. TP body 1. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be sort of attached to the child component of that, which is the body, which is the reason why we need body to be the first component under TP body 1, because we're just going to get the first child component and attach it to that. So Phantom Weapon here. And we're going to need a sort of function, and we're going to need to add some outputs to this blueprint interface so that it returns some stuff that we need to attach that weapon properly. So what you can do is you can just double click this node and it will open up that blueprint interface. And then on get weapon class here, we're going to create a couple of new outputs. One is going to be a skeletal mesh, so the skeletal mesh of the weapon that we're spawning, and this will be a skeletal mesh object reference. And the other is going to be the weapon to spawn. So we just want to pass the weapon to spawn over so that we can get its class defaults. So we'll call this one weapon to spawn, and this will be a class reference to our weapon comp master. Weapon comp master class reference. Nice. And we can compile this and save this and close this. And then we need to open up our weapon pickup master. So BP weapon pickup master. This is where this blueprint interface is calling this function get weapon class. So we can open up get weapon class here. And we need to basically create these variables and pass them through. Well, weapon to spawn we already have. We can pass that through, but we need to create this skeletal mesh component. So let's create a variable and call it skeletal mesh. And this will be a skeletal mesh object reference. And we'll pass that through here, but then we need to set this in each of our weapon pickups. And if you compile this, you might get this error that this is declared in a parent class with a different signature. This isn't This was added in a parent class, but basically we just need to open up our pickup master, which is where we sort of added the interact BPI, the blueprint interface, and this get weapon class is in here. If we compile this and save this, we should be able to compile this and it should go away now. Nice. So this skeletal mesh is being passed through when we pick up one of our weapon pickups, but we need to set this in the class defaults of each of our weapon pickups. And I know this is a bit complicated, but you know, what can I say? If you want to set up complicated stuff in your game, it's going to be complicated. Let's open up BP pistol pickup, open up all of our pickups here. And in each one, we want to set in the class defaults this skeletal mesh variable that we've just created to the correct skeletal mesh. So this one is going to be my pistols A. Compile and save and close that and go to the next one. This one's going to be assault rifle B. Compile, save and close that. And this one is also assault rifle B. Compile, save and close that. And now, in our first person character, we are going to need a new function. And I'm gonna call it right here. I am going to create this function and I'm gonna call it set phantom weapon. This is going to have all of the same inputs that our BPI is outputting. So all of the, sorry, not all of them, just the skeletal mesh and the weapon to spawn. So the set phantom weapon is going to have two inputs. One is going to be the skeletal mesh. And this is a skeletal mesh object reference. And I'm just going to call this one weapon. And that is going to be weapon comp master class reference. Nice. And just before I set up the logic in here, I'm going to go back to the event graph and I'm just going to call it right here. And plug in these outputs into these inputs and go back in here. And basically this is going to set the skeletal mesh. So what we can do is grab our phantom weapon and we can set skeletal mesh asset. Set skeletal mesh asset as the skeletal mesh right here. And off of weapon here, we can get class defaults. And we need to also attach this weapon. So attach component to component. The parent is going to be our TP body 1's first child component. So get TP body 1 and get child component and plug this in here. And this is what I meant by the arms having to be the first, sort of the parent of all of these other ones. So these arms here are the parent of all of these. They're the first child component of TP body 1, and that's also why we have to use those as our set leader pose component, the leader bone in our leader pose component. So that is going to work, and we can also get the socket name from the class defaults here, and these will be snap to target, snap to target, snap to target. And the last thing that we need to do for this phantom weapon is its shadow settings. So we can select our phantom weapon and search for owner, and this is going to be owner only see and also owner no see, so no one's going to see it. But if we also search for hidden and check hidden shadow, it will cast a shadow. And because this is not spawned on the server or replicated, this should only cast a shadow on our sort of local instance if we are the owning player. So I'll grab a weapon, and if I look at my shadow, Ah, that has not attached correctly. What is going on here? We can actually use this as an opportunity to check if it's casting a shadow for only us, and that does appear to only be casting a shadow for us, and we want to check that with both. So yes, the shadow is working correctly. All of the shadows are working correctly, but we just need to look at where that is attaching and why that is attaching incorrectly. I do believe it's because it's already parented to TP body 1 and it's trying to parent itself to something else. So I wonder if I just drag this onto TP body 1, so it's just parented to the capsule component. I'm wondering if that will help get rid of this error. It has, yeah. So it just can't be by default parented to to a parent of the component that you want to attach it to. That's really odd, because I would have thought that this attach component to component node just reparents it. But apparently it doesn't simply reparent it. But that's all good. Just make sure it's not parented to TP body 1, and that should be working. And I do believe that's everything we set out to do. We've got our first person legs. We can't see down inside of them. They are casting a shadow correctly, and if we go over to another player, they can't see any extra shadows. So that all seems to be working correctly. We fixed the issue where I can spawn an assault rifle from nowhere. That does seem to be fixed. Just double checking. And also, if I grab something fully automatic here and I fire at another player, yes, we've got all the correct collision. And the other thing is when we changed that preview mesh body, so his arms sort of being the full body instead of just the arms, it would create some really strange distortion on the t-shirt mesh there when you're looking up and down. So that does seem to be fixed. Nice. Yeah, that is absolutely everything that we set out to do today, guys. If this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.